excessive amount of thinking about the future that something bad might happen. It came to a point that was so bad, I actually saw a psychiatrist and then they tried to give me some drugs that were actually antidepressants. What would people think of me sometimes causes us to withdraw even more into our shell, and therefore you didn't need to be anxious about the future because you made the effort to build yourself up. No shame in seeking help. Hey everyone, it's me, Sarah X Miracle, your miracle mom, and today we are going to talk about how to deal with anxiety. I was super anxious when I was pregnant with Aaron, who is my fourth child, because my third pregnancy ended up as a pregnancy loss where I had to give birth to a stillborn. And during that time when I was pregnant with Aaron, I had a lot of trouble sleeping, and in the daytime I would just have these feelings of like foreboding for no reason. Okay, there's no logical reason for anxiety. Anxiety just happens and you think that something bad is going to happen. There's this excessive amount of thinking about the future that something bad might happen, and there's no logical reason to why something bad might happen. All the signs of the pregnancy, all the tests, everything was like, oh, you're a very healthy baby, you're technically healthy as a mom as well, I have like no issues. And still, I had this massive anxiety on top of me, probably because of the previous pregnancy loss. It came to a point that was so bad, I actually saw a psychiatrist and then they tried to give me some drugs that were actually antidepressants. And then I couldn't, because when I took that antidepressant, it just made me so washed out. I just felt like I was a zombie, like I couldn't feel anything. It was very weird. So that was my experience with anxiety just over a year ago. And I would say that it took me up to the point of the 27-week mark, okay, which is when I lost Nadia, our third child, for me to believe like, okay, things are fine. I passed the 27-week mark and this baby's gonna come to like full term, because in the back of my head, I was just like, I could lose this baby like any time, even though there was no medical reason to suggest that I would. So that kind of anxiety, fear of the future, can happen to anyone. And especially if you're going through a situation that feels like you've had a bad experience before, and you are anxious that that bad thing might happen again, that is very common. I want to share with you today on, because I did not successfully exit my anxiety. I had to deal with it for like 6 months, 7 months before I had that logical or like that emotional switch to say like, okay, it's past that point that you lost the previous baby, this baby is gonna be fine. Anxiety can happen in like a myriad of ways, apart from, you know, bad things happening. It can even just be about people that you meet. So someone was telling me that she has social anxiety. It's about just even the interactions of feeling like you're being judged by people, right? Like, what would people think of me? And so that kind of sometimes causes us to withdraw even more into our shell, because then you feel like you are not able to deal with the situation or deal with the interaction that you're anxious about, or deal with the judgment. And so you feel even less equipped because you have less and less experience. So the more you avoid it, the less experience you have, and the more you believe that you are inadequate to meet that experience, right, of having more social interactions. As a mom, if I saw my daughter having that kind of social anxiety, I would encourage her to take very small steps to try to overcome that feeling that she is inadequate, unprepared, or, you know, going to be judged in the way she interacts with people. Of course, I can't parent everyone, right? Because a lot of it also has to do with your upbringing, right? How did your parents deal with your social interactions when you were a child? Did they kind of scold you when you did something wrong every single time? Did they allow you to make mistakes? Did they allow you to have the opportunity to interact independently with older people, you know, like even just buying things from the shop, you know, things like that? These are things that now when Leon is 7, right, I am trying to help him to realize that it is okay to go up to like the auntie because you want to buy waffle from the waffle store and ask her for it, right? Just a small social interaction to say, auntie, I would like a plain waffle, right? And then she tells you it's 150, and then giving him the money. So things like that in childhood, if let's say you never had someone who can scaffold the experience for you, you need to learn how to scaffold the experience for yourself. So for example, if you're afraid of eye contact because you just think that people are going to look at you weird, it is important to learn how to do eye contact in a small situation. For example, you're going onto a bus, the uncle is there, even just making a small eye contact with uncle and say, "Hi uncle," right? When you get on the bus. Or when you pay for something and they usually say thank you to you right after you pay for something. Making sure that you, instead of just looking down at your wallet and doing that kind of thing, it is also like looking up to say, "Yeah, you're welcome." Just look at that for like 2 seconds. It will not kill you because you are unlikely to see the cashier again unless you go to the supermarket like every week. But You know, if you're just paying for something and they say, thank you for your purchase or whatever it is, just make an effort to look up and say, oh, you're welcome, right? Or just say thank you in return, like, oh, thanks. And that will help you bit by bit to reduce your anxiety of eye contact, because that is one of the small key things in social interactions that many people are very poor at. You know, they don't really know how to interact and hold attention. Sometimes we're lazy, sometimes we're tired, I get it. I'm also lazy and tired sometimes. But I think it's very, very helpful if you do small steps like that to help you get over that anxiety of interacting with people and socializing with them. Eventually, you take more and more actions, from eye contact to having extended conversations like small talk, and then eventually to making new friends, right? Of learning how to walk into a networking room as an adult and being able to walk up to someone and say, hey, I'm Sarah, what's your name? You know, that is another whole level, right? Because you are trying to make a connection with someone you never met before in your life in a room full of strangers. All these are small levels, right? But if you never learn in the first place how to make eye contact, how are you going to eventually, as an adult, walk into a whole room and do networking? While you're still in school, while you're still, you know, working your first job, it is so important to overcome that social anxiety and thinking people will judge you, blah, 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 and to gain that confidence in being able to conquer the smaller social interactions that will eventually give you the people and social skills to network and do higher level connections, you know, when you're older as an adult, that will be really important for you to actually upskill yourself and get promoted. You know, if you're looking in long-term career progression kind of thing. Someone also was talking about, is there a difference between anxiety and stress? I would say that stress is usually tied to an event in your life, or it's tied to something that's happening, and so you can kind of pinpoint an end to the stress. Like exam stress, once the exam is over, okay, no more stress, right? Once you hand up the assignment, okay, stress is gone. Or like, I'm performing for an event, there's a bit of stress because I'm preparing for the event. Once the event is over, okay, no more stress. Anxiety tends to be something that can be quite long drawn. It can be over months, like what happened with me in my pregnancy. It can be so severe that it affects your sleep, even like no good reason why. Like it's just this subconscious feeling of dread that something bad is going to happen, or like, you know, and I really identify with that feeling. And so sometimes these anxieties can actually become mental health disorders, and it's very important for you to recognize, because there's two things here. Mental health, which includes wellness, and mental illness, which is where you are sick. You want to recognize, like, am I going to the point where it's diagnosable, right? That it is really like affecting my daily life and things like that for an extended period of time. Then if that is the case, there is no shame in seeking help to treat this mental illness, because there are a whole lot of anxiety disorders, okay, not just normal anxiety, but disorders where it's so extreme, and you must find a way to talk to somebody about it. On the other hand, mental health is, you know, and mental wellness is about our state of well-being. You know, can we actually feel positive, engaged, have a sense of freedom, have a sense of positivity, have a sense of fulfillment, self-actualization. That sense of wellness can only happen if you are anxiety-free. Because imagine if you have anxiety in your mind all the time, how are you going to feel hopeful, positive, you know, and feeling like you can contribute with purpose into the world? So one of the ways that you can try to negate that anxiety is to go back to your purpose. For example, as a mom, I'm facing all this anxiety, pregnancy-related stress in my life. But if I just took a step back and say, like, you know, my purpose as a mom is to really call out the identities of my children, is to really help them to become the most unique and special individuals that they are. And that is so important, right? And to just remember that you have a purpose where you are. So even as a student, you have a purpose too, right? Your purpose is to really be able to absorb, to learn, to challenge yourself, to grow, right? To become the best person you can be in this phase. And that is all you need to do. Your purpose is to grow as a student. You're given this opportunity to learn and to grow, and so you must ask as many questions as you can, right? Make as many friends and community as you can around you, because at this stage of your life, so as a student, you will never come back into this point of life anymore where you had just the opportunity to learn, to grow, to absorb, you know, to become a better person, to go towards your fuller potential. As a student, you have a purpose too, right? And of course, our purpose is not necessarily tied to our job or our season in life. It could also be that, for example, you're a daughter, you're a sister, right? You're a friend, and you have a purpose there as well, right? All the roles that you play. And once you realize that you have a purpose, anxiety cannot stand. Because you see, anxiety is all about the fear of worthlessness, the fear of being judged, the fear of loss, right? You're losing something, the fear of not performing well enough. All these fears can lead up to different types of anxieties or even just build up into one generalized anxiety disorder, which is then goes into illness. If you have such a clear sense of your purpose and you're reviewing that on a daily basis, you'll realize that the anxiety has to be displaced by a greater sense of awareness of why you are where you are. I personally, as someone who has, I guess, 3 children, if my kids started to tell me that they're super kanchiong or anxious about their future, I would ask them to think a little bit less. Because sometimes it's about the overthinking, right? Like, you're just ruminating in your head, like just overthinking, like, what if like I never get a boyfriend? What if I never get married? What if like I don't get a job, you know, after this phase of my life? What if I'm stuck in this job forever? But guess what? You can't control any of that, right? And so if you're thinking too far and too wide and you keep overthinking, that anxiety then sometimes leads to depression because you're feeling like depressed that there's no hope. So instead of thinking about, oh, so far ahead, let's say it's about loneliness and not being able to eventually find partner and like settle down and things like that. Instead of having that perspective that you might never find someone, you should think, how can I be that someone who will be a great partner to somebody? How can I be the most whole version of myself such that I can be someone who can add value, you know, to my potential partner in the future? You need to make yourself as whole as possible and focus on building yourself up before you even think about that next step. And so if you know, okay, my purpose is to really be the best version of myself, remove all my dysfunction, to get inner healing for perhaps things that I never received when I was a child, and recognize all of those things and believe that because I'm going to be a great person, right? I'm going to naturally attract another great person to be part of my life. It's going to happen in its due time. I don't know when, but I'm doing my best to be a great person. Eventually, you'll look back when you find this person. And then you will realize that all the things that you did for yourself to build yourself up was so worth it. And therefore, you didn't need to be anxious about the future because you made the effort to build yourself up. Sometimes it's also because we put the expectation on ourselves. Like, oh, I want to get married by 30. I want to have kids by 35. You know, and the more expectations we load on ourselves, the more anxiety we get because we are looking at the clock, we're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm already how old? Like, you know, all my other friends have like boyfriends and like I'm still like, eh. Your expectations are unrealistic. So it's okay to let them go. It's okay to let go of your expectations and allow life to flow freely and be very present. Right? I think that's the last thing I want to leave with you. So we talked about taking small steps. We talked about purpose, being able to identify that you do have a purpose in this season of your life. And the last thing I would encourage you to do is to be very, very fully present. So for me as a mom, I was so anxious about this giving birth thing and this like baby not surviving to full term that I was really missing out on the everyday interactions with my older children because I was just like in my own head and I was sleeping so badly that I was not functioning very well. And so the best thing you can do to overcome anxiety is to be so grateful and so present in what's in front of you and knowing that, wow, what's in my hands is so precious. I'm going to steward these opportunities that are already in my hands and believe that when I do this in front of me well, that is the thing that will help me in my next season, right? So with my friends, if I learn how to interact with just those people around me, that will bring you to the next season to overcome that social anxiety because you are just working on what you have in your situation. I think this is a bit deep and I know it's not an easy topic, but I hope I did it some justice about dealing with anxiety. I mean, that's my own Miracle Mom take. We are doing a series of how to deal with. And so if you like this video and you want to look at other videos, you have some recommendations for topics on how to deal with XXXXX, please leave us a comment below and we're going to do our best to create more content to help you live, I guess, a full life. Yeah, I want to help you live a full life. I want to help you live a life where you feel that you can achieve what you want to, but without the need to feel like you're performing for someone else, right? I want you to feel that you're comfortable with yourself and who you are. That is my goal of this series, that you will discover who you truly are rather than thinking you have to be somebody else. So once again, I'm Sarah X Miracle, your Miracle Mom. If you like this, I hope you'll give us at least a like, a share. We're also on other social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. So join us there as well. You can even give me an Instagram DM if you want to share an anonymous story or comment, okay? Love you guys!